there's always a challenge that's attached to the message. So instead of allowing for my moment to be ruined, I decided that I would go live on Facebook. And so I do want to thank everyone that is joining me, and hopefully the message will be well received. So good evening, my wonderful people of Facebook. My goal today was to start my coaching and conversation via live. My original goal was to go to YouTube, but of course, when you have a message, there's always a challenge that's attached to the message. So instead of allowing for my moment to be ruined, I decided that I would go live on Facebook. And so I do want to thank everyone that is joining me, and hopefully the message will be well received. I also hope that I have others join, given the circumstances with the YouTube not working successfully. So today I wanted to talk about some of the things that I have been experiencing. If you've been able to see my YouTube video from last week, you'll know that I began my journey of just talking openly and candidly about using your voice, particularly in the workplace. For those of you who are joining and know that I have made a few attempts to start coaching and conversations, and I say start, but actually as of January 28th, 2019 was my first session with one of my most fabulous coaches, Gabby. And during that time, we knew that there was a message to be heard. I wasn't sure where I was going with it. Hi, my cousin's joining. How are you? So today I wanted to talk about, an experience that I had in the workplace where, if many of you know, in the state of Georgia and many other states that are at will, that, there are some things that are considered to be illegal. And one thing I will tell you that I have recently found out that was not illegal was being able to bully in the workplace. So my message I posted last week simply talked about being a voice, being able to hear your own voice, listen to your voice, and speak with your voice. Particularly this message is about the workplace. For some of you who may or may not know, my background is in HR, so I've been working in aggressively in the HR realm for the last few years. And in that, I have found that there are so many people that are just unaware of their rights. They're unaware of their ability to speak. Bullying in the workplace has become something that's the norm. Unfortunately, it's become the norm because there's no recourse behind it. There are no laws that protect the employee from being bullied in the workplace, unless they're specifically tied to things like race or gender or sexual orientation or disabilities. There are no laws that protect the average employee. So, my goal is to just share my experience and help people understand that you have a right to use your voice. You definitely need to be mindful, but under no circumstances should you allow a company to make you feel as though you don't have a voice. And so people ask, well, what am I supposed to do? Most companies are very intimidating. They make employees feel as though we need them. And that's just been historically the way things are done. No matter how much education you get, no matter how you show up with perfect attendance and work all the extra hours, companies will still make you feel as though you need them. The unfortunate reality for many of us is that we understand that there is a need for employment, but there should never be a place where you don't feel as though where you don't understand that the company needs you. You know, if you are employed by a company, they obviously employed you for the skills that you have, for the gifts that you have. So the idea that they need you is more relevant than you needing them. So, you know, I'm not going to take a whole lot of time. I'm really disappointed that I wasn't able to effectively do this on YouTube. But, you know, again, my goal is to just be encouraging. I will continue to use my voice, using my skills, acquired education, to kind of help those of us that are considered essential workers. And yes, there is a level of independence. You know, I commend all of those people that have the ability to go out and become self-sufficient and become entrepreneurs and do what your gift is for you, or for you and others. But there is a reality that many of us have a gift that, hey sis, I see you. Thank you for joining. Many of us have a gift that is specific for the workplace, for the everyday workplace. It is why, you know, beyond COVID, where people talk about you being essential, if you are employed, whether you are independently employed or working with a corporation, you are essential. There are some essentials that are more relevant than others, but essentially it's self-explanatory that we are all essential workers. So my sister's sending hearts. I love you, sis. So I wasn't as successful, sis, as I thought I was going to be when I wanted to go live on YouTube. But apparently, although I did all the testing earlier, it didn't work out in my favor. So I'm still working on that tech savvy thing that works, that does not work in my favor. So thank you. So, you know, again, I just want to encourage everyone to definitely be mindful of using your voice. You know, in the state of Georgia, there are so many rules and regulations about that protect the corporation, the whole at will, and few of them really protect the employee. Now, if you know anything about at will, you know that it was designed to say that an employee has the right to leave somewhere if they're uncomfortable, as much as the company has a right to release that person for no fault on either side. But generally that only works in the favor of the employer, because they design the system to where they make us feel as though we need them. And so who's walking away from something that they need? Very few people are walking away from something that they need. And so you have to really be confident in knowing that you are essential to that corporation, and not allowing that corporation to make you feel like you need them with these bullying, intimidation tactics. So, you know, a few weeks ago I experienced, and I won't go into, you know, here's my permission to speak freely, but I won't go into the organization itself, but by name, I should say, so we'll remain nameless. About a year and a half ago, when I started this employment, I was really taken aback by the fact that there were so many people that didn't have voices. And I do recall, you know, when I started, a young lady saying to me she was glad that I was very open. And for those of you who know me, know that I don't have a problem with speaking up. So when I started in the workplace, I found it to be strange. And I'll be honest with you, my first thought was it feels like modern day slavery. I just couldn't imagine that there were so many people that were not comfortable with using their voice. So many people that would allow things to happen and not be able to speak up about it. In that, you know, it became very evident that it was the way that the company operated. It was their way of doing business, was to make people fearful of using their voices. And so, you know, in most cases, when you do that, you get to control the environment. And so that's exactly what has happened over the past year and a half, is that, from a hierarchy of high level of leadership, they've allowed the intimidation tactic, the bullying tactic to control the environment. So, my goal is to just speak about it, speak up, and speak often in regards to this matter of bullying in the workplace, because no one should ever be allowed to use an intimidating tactic to get the job done. The reality of it is that it does happen. So you have to be comfortable and confident enough to be able to speak in a manner that is professional. Be your authentic self, and be honest and be transparent. Be the person that you are called to be, whether you're in the workplace, working someone else's 9 to 5, a manufacturing, a restaurant, working your own thing. You need to always make sure that you use your authentic self, or be your authentic self, and use your voice. So as I mentioned in my last message, and I will mention in every message, find your voice and use your voice. Those two things are very important. Do not allow any company, no matter how big or small, to make you feel as though it is acceptable for bullying to be able to do your job, or to force you to do something in a manner that's uncomfortable. Sis, why do you have watching 5 times? Are you watching on everything at all your devices? So I think you're logged in. Maybe I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not sure. So it just looks like you're logged in a lot. So, but I love you no matter how many times you log in. So, because I don't know why it says that. Okay. Well, I don't know why it says that either, but we're okay with it. You can log in as many times as you need to. I don't mind seeing your beautiful face. And there's Miss Shy. I can always count on you to, hold on, I think. So I made the mistake. Obviously, I'm not doing something right, because I couldn't get my YouTube working, and I've got people sending me messages. All right, so I am really disappointed that I didn't get to get as many people as I would like to, but it's a journey in itself. I guess I will just keep going until. So I will try this again, probably go live every day this week, or every day that I have available, and I'll continue to share my message and my voice. And hi, Jonathan. So I know it's the 6 o'clock hour. People are really getting off work. Hey, Ashley. All right. So there are some people out there looking to see. Hi. So I was sharing with those who are just joining. I've just been talking about my journey to bring awareness to bullying in the workplace. I experienced a couple of weeks ago, and I'm sure many of you know. I know, Jonathan, you've been in the military for 100 years, so you've probably had all types of different stories to tell about the whole bullying in the workplace. But one of the things that I wanted to share and continue to share my voice about is having a voice in the workplace. Part of that is just the fact that in many states now where it's an at will, it makes it very difficult for people to have a voice, simply because they are intimidated. You have companies now that make people feel as though we need them versus the opposite. And so when they utilize that intimidation tactic, it really makes people fearful of losing their jobs. So my job is to just continue to encourage people from my background of HR, the experiences that I'm having, and just an overall just being a human person, a person that just believes that people should have the right to go to work and they should have the right to do their jobs and do their jobs well, based on the fact that the companies hire them with the idea that they have the skills to do the job, and not utilize a bullying tactic from a leadership or from any level just to force people to show up for work or to make them feel as though they may lose their financial ability to provide. And I think that's probably a bigger thing than anything else, is that people are fearful of losing their income. Now more than ever, with COVID happening, companies have just become very blatant and arrogant with the bullying tactics. And so, my job is, again, to just encourage people to be a voice, be their own voice, show up for yourself, be comfortable with speaking out when things are not done properly, to not only yourself, but to others. For those of you that are believers, you know that there's scripture that tells you to be your brother's keepers. I know, Jonathan, you've been in the military, so that's so evident, and it's necessary for you. But one of the things that, in being your brother's keeper, you'll find, and I experienced a couple of weeks ago when I had to confront my plant manager, that so many people will say, I'll stand with you, I'll support you. And then when it's time to show up, you have to show up for yourself, because there will be people that will say, I will show up with you. And then they'll quickly say, never mind, because I've got to provide for my family. And I get it. And that's why I have no issue with showing up for myself under these circumstances. But the one thing that people cannot do is silence you unless you allow them to. I am highly skilled in my profession, and I'm good at what I do. There's no question about it. The conversation that I had with my plant manager when he said to me, I gave you this job. I said, correction, you didn't give me anything. You interviewed me and you hired me based on your belief that I could do this job, based on my experience that was documented on my resume and the 1,200 interviews that I had. But at the end of the day, I will not allow anyone to make me feel like they gave me anything, because I've earned every bit of what I do. And so, I will continue to show up for myself. I'll continue to show up for people even when they can't show up for themselves, because that's the human side of me. Hey, Greg, that's the human side of me that says that I'm a person first before I'm an employee. And we've got to do better with supporting one another in the workplace. You hear all these different conversations. Ashley, thank you for mentioning that this conversation is extremely necessary. I hear so many conversations about people that want you to support small businesses or large businesses or Black businesses or any other color business. But you rarely hear people talk about supporting one another in the workplace, which is where most of us are. Everyone would like to be independent, but not all of us are there. And not only are we not all there, not all of us are supposed to be there. There are some of us that, while I am clear that I have many gifts, one of my gifts is showing up for work. It's not that I don't necessarily want to be independent. I know there's a calling for me, and there's a gift when I show up in a workplace that's way beyond just a paycheck. There are people that expect me to show up for them, and my goal is to show up, which is why I went into human resources. So, I want to make sure that I am aware and bringing awareness, that I am encouraged and also being encouraging, because it is so necessary for us to start using our voices. You know, historically, if you know anything about the way things were run years back, particularly with companies like manufacturing and logistics, they were protected by unions. And then someone said, we don't need a union anymore, or we don't need someone that we have to pay to represent us. So a lot of companies did away with unions, particularly down in the South. But when you don't have unions, then of course you don't have that so-called protection. The reality of it is you really don't ever have any protection. So, you know, the one thing that I've learned is that when you have companies that don't have a union, they have a tendency to be a little bit more relaxed when it comes to certain things. You know, we know the open door policy isn't really an open door, because if you walk through that door that's open, it is quite a possibility that what happens on the other side of that door may not work out in your favor as an employee. But you got to be comfortable. Again, you've got to be able to show up for yourself and then show up for others. And as long as you know that you are doing it in right order, you know, I had the experience 2 weeks ago where everyone expected that erratic, you know, behavior, Melissa, the loudmouth, the one that likes to make a noise, to show up as this quote unquote angry black woman. And when they didn't get that person, they were quite confused. But what I realized is that it's okay, you know, because what I have learned about being angry is that it's always okay to be angry, you know, as long as you can channel that anger to doing something with it that benefits everyone. I'm not saying go out and act, excuse my language, an ass, or, you know, show up in the workplace and be ignorant, because that is unfortunate, an expectation that they have from many of us. But use your gifts, and your gift is your voice. You know, you can speak clearly on any matter that bothers you or makes you uncomfortable in a way that is professional. It doesn't necessarily have to be politically correct. You don't have to use all the right verbiage, but you do have to be strong enough to say what you mean and mean what you say. And so, you know, that is important. And, you know, you just really have to make sure that you are doing that. So I'm going to give everyone their time back. I know we're live on Facebook. I'm definitely going to share this video. I will likely go live again on Wednesday evening. My topic for Wednesday evening will probably be much aligned to using your voice. I'm going to use my gift as an HR specialist to really talk more in depth about the things that many people don't know, because of many reasons. One being is that a lot of people won't go to HR and ask questions in their own workplace because you don't know what's going to happen with the question. Those questions. And so this will be the platform where you can ask those questions. If there are any particular topics that you would like for me to discuss, HR related, please feel free to message me, and we'll talk about them. So I love each and every one of you: Micaiah, Crystal, Ashley, Shy, Greg, Jonathan, my cousin G, Loris. Thank you guys for joining me, and I am looking forward to sharing and having this conversation again sometime this week. Again, feel free to message me any questions, HR related questions. Let's talk about recruiting tactics. Let's talk about anything that the HR manager doesn't want you to talk about in your workplace. So I encourage everyone, and I'll close with this. I heard on the commercial for Shriners Hospital, the young man always says, things may not be easy, but they're definitely worth it. Right now, I am in that it's not easy to have a voice, but for every time that I use my voice, it's definitely worth it. So I hope that you guys listen, share this video, join me again, and I love each and every one of you. So we'll see you soon.